Don't know how to make this dress? Let's fix that in less than 10 minutes, shall we?
Yeah.
Alright, let's get started. First, I'm gonna head to draw out the vertical lines, and if you don't know how to draft this pattern from scratch, be sure to check my previous post on how to draft a simple dress. The only difference with this version is that I did not place the dart intake as I normally would. That's because this is a different dress with a different styling. So for this pattern, I went in by 4.5 inches. My original nipple to nipple measurement is 3.5 inches, but for this particular style, I'm using 4.5 inches. I then created a dart intake of 1 inch. The reason for this adjustment is purely based on the design. If you take a close look at the inspiration dress, you'll notice that it differs significantly from what I usually draft. The pattern has a distinct shape, and in order to achieve that same silhouette, I had to adjust the stylings accordingly by going in an extra inch. The next step is to mark out your bust measurement. My bust measurement is 8.5 inches, so I marked that accordingly. Afterwards, I moved on to mark my waist measurement. Don't forget to add 1 inch for the dart intake. I marked the hip measurement. Once all those are marked, go ahead and connect the point using your ruler. Now I'll also be marking the bust dart, which is 1.5 inches. I'll go down by 1.5 inches at the side and then connect that point to the bust point, okay? Moving up to the shoulder line, I'm going to mark the midpoint of the shoulder and then connect it down to the bust point. This step is important because we will need to eliminate excess fabric for a better fit. But before we go further, I'll go by 3 inches from the armhole area and then go in by 0.5 inches. I'll connect that point to the shoulder slope to redefine the shape. Okay. Next, I'll mark 1 inch at the midpoint of the shoulder. I will just go ahead to mark it out like so. Then from the shoulder itself, I'll go down by 1.5 inches. This adjustment is necessary because we need to replace it that we took earlier. So the pattern stays balanced. Always remember, whatever you take out, you have to replace somewhere else to maintain proper fit. After doing that, I connect all the necessary points and draw in the armhole. I also decided to go in by 0.5 inch at the armhole, but honestly, I felt like 1 inch would have been a better fit after I completed the draft. So from the neckline, I marked 2 inches to begin shaping the style line. Then at the waistline, I went in by 1.5 inches and extended that line down to the hem. This is how I created that elegant style line that gives the dress its unique structure. So once that is done, I noticed that I added 1 extra inch to the waist measurement. So I had to remove that excess to correct the fit. Please be careful with your measurements so you don't have to make the same mistake. At the hip line, I went up by 3 inches because that's where I want the place to begin. You can place your pleats wherever you want, above or below the hip line. But for this design, I want it just above to replicate the original look exactly. I marked that point clearly. So go ahead to root this out, then take the measurement. So here we're having 9 inches. So this, I'm going to use this to mark dotted lines from the hip area so that we'll know how the pleat is going to be positioned. After that, I checked the on the bust measurement and noticed a little excess again. I added that to that intake for a neater fit. Honestly, this isn't absolutely necessary since they're ready to wear design, but I like precision and clean tailoring, so I went ahead and made the adjustment. Then I connected the new points to the dart and the waistline to complete the shaping. Once I finished all the necessary markings and lines, the pattern started to take shape beautifully. I first cut along the dart at the shoulder. So now I will be closing the bust dart. So once the bust dart is closed, the next step is to trace it with the tracing wheel. So this will ensure that we are cutting the pattern the right way. So once that is done, I'm going to be slashing open the midpoint of the bust dart, lap the shoulder dart, and tape it using a tape. So this will give us a good fit at the shoulder part. Then once that is done, you go ahead to draw a slanted line at that shoulder tip to the shoulder slope. Okay. So make sure you're doing this properly so that you don't have issues when you're done. Now the next depth is 2 3/4 inches. So just go ahead to mark this out, and I'll be adding 1/4 inch for the seam allowance, and then go ahead to cut this out. So I'll be cutting it like so. So go ahead to close the bust dart and label the panel. This is the first, second, and the third Add 0.5 inch seam allowance to the armhole area and 1 inch to the rest. So now we go ahead to cut this out. Now, assuming you are not going to start your pleats from the hip, take whatever measurement you have on that waist and mark it down. So that is how you're going to derive your pleats if you wanted to start your pleats from the waist. All you do is just to rule it out like this and then go ahead and cut this out. I need to give you the exact same design you want, okay? So now we'll go ahead to cut all of this. I'm cutting the third panel, then go ahead to cut out the second and the first, removing the darts, and that is it. Now that the front pattern is fully prepared and cut, let's move on to the back. For the back, start by drawing out your basic bodice pattern. If you're unsure how to do that, check my previous video for a step-by-step guide. So from the center back, I'm going in by 3 inches, marking it down to the hem. Then go ahead to connect the lines like so. Now, once that is done, mark your bust measurement and go to the center back and measure 0.5 inches to remove zipper bulge. Go down by 6 inches at the center back and connect the points like so. Afterwards, go ahead to mark your waist measurement and mark the dart, which is 1 inches, and go down by 6 inches like so and connect the points. Then go ahead to add your hip measurement and connect everything. So for the neckline, I noticed that the original design had a deep back neckline, so I suggest going down by at least 4 inches. I'll show more of this during the sewing tutorial. I then made sure the back pattern aligned properly with the front pattern. Remember that I went up by 3 inches from the hip line in the front, so I did the same here at the back. Your hip line should be consistent, front and back, both at 9 inches, and then go up by 3 inches to mark the start of the pleats. Once done, go ahead to complete it to the end and connect the lines together like so. So now I found the midpoint of the waist and marked that point. I made a slant at the top so that it can have this silhouette feel. So make sure you're doing it like so. So whatever measurement you have there, you have to take it down like so. So now you can go ahead to roll this out. Once done, you go ahead to cut it out. Remember, your neckline is 1/4 inch and the side seams and allowance is 1 inch. So after cutting it, make sure you're labeling the panel. So this is the first, the second, and the third. Now you can go ahead to cut this out. Now here are the 3 panels for the back and also for the front. Now here is the fun part, adding the pleats. I started with the front panel as an example. From the center front panel to the middle panel, I added 6 inches, and then to the side front panel, I added 3 inches. I divided the 6-inch pleat into 2, giving 3 inches each for the side front and also for the side back. This way, when you join the panels, the pleats balance out beautifully. Now, was how it was done. In case you don't understand, this is the back. So for the side back, I added 3 inches. For the distance between the side back and the middle back panel, I added 6 inches and I am placing it on that straight line, okay? So make sure everything is placed on a line that is consistent with the rest. Then I mark out 6 inches on the sides, then I get to the center back. So once the measurement has been taken, go ahead to place the center back panel right there and go ahead to cut this out. So for the center back panel, we're not placing anything there because we have the zipper allowance there. We're going to be placing a zipper there. So make sure you're not putting anything there. Just cut it through like so. Okay. Now this is how everything turned out. Make sure the length of your front is also the same length with your back, okay? So when you're cutting it on fabric, make sure you add 0.5 inches at the top, and this is how it should look like. Finally, I pinned everything together to show how I will stitch it in the next tutorial. This is how the full dress pattern looks like, and I'm so excited for you to try this out. If you followed up to this point, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other tutorials, especially this one on how to sew a simple dress. I'm sure you'll love it. See you in my next video. Bye.